Hello everyone, welcome to Sports Source, your number one source of sports, and today we're going to be talking about a potential Anthony Davis trade that could send him to the Boston Celtics. But before we do that, smash that like button and subscribe for more NBA news and discussions. Without further ado, let's begin the video. So with each passing day, it's more and more clear that Kyrie Irving will not be re-signing with the Boston Celtics, and I made a video a little bit ago talking about Anthony Davis' trade to the Knicks. But it seems like the Boston Celtics are heavily considered as a trade partner for Anthony Davis, and I think that they have one of the best packages to offer. So we're just going to be going over what the Celtics can offer, and we're just going to be talking about this whole trade package in total. So first things first. What are the Boston Celtics giving up in this trade? Because you're getting Anthony Davis. Yes, it's a one-year deal, but there's been reports that if he was traded to Boston, then he would probably consider re-signing, which makes a lot of sense because I think that if you look at players over the past couple of years, if you look at the Paul George trade, he was traded with 1 year left on his contract. Lots of people thought of it as a rental, but he ended up re-signing, and same thing is happening to Kawhi right now, where he was traded from the Spurs to the Raptors, not expected to re-sign, but now they might even win the NBA championship, and it's heavily rumored that he's going to re-sign, and it's really, really likely. So I think that if Anthony Davis gets traded, the same thing could happen, where he gets a season, he likes his situation, and he re-signs. It's not out of the question, but there's that, and Boston, I think, is a really good city, but for him, in order for him to stay, if he was traded to Boston, the city of Boston would need to treat him right because you got one shot, one deal. You're already losing out on Kyrie Irving, and this is your next guy if Kyrie Irving leaves and if you decide to move on from Jayson Tatum. Speaking of Jayson Tatum, he would be the main piece in this deal because the Pelicans see very, very high value in Jayson Tatum, and I think the whole league does too because I think that Jayson Tatum has one of the highest ceilings right now in the whole NBA. And if you're giving up a guy like Anthony Davis, a franchise, generational player, whatever, then you want to be getting a guy with a really, really high ceiling back. We've seen those flashes. He just needs to go on a new team and just shine. And I think that with the Pelicans, if they draft Zion, which they probably will, Zion, Jayson Tatum, I think that those guys could be a filthy young duo for years and years and years to come. So I already mentioned how Jayson Tatum is the main piece in this deal, and that's like your main thing. That's why the Pelicans have held off on Anthony Davis because they're trying to wait for Jayson Tatum because he's one of the most valuable players in the NBA. But there's also some other pieces that the Celtics have. One of them is Jaylen Brown. He would be a very good supporting player if you decide to trade him to the New Orleans Pelicans. They already have Drew Holiday, who you could play at the point guard position, but he said he doesn't like playing at the point guard position. So I'm not really sure how you would do that lineup. Obviously, Jaylen Brown, he hasn't really improved from 2 seasons ago to last season. So you kind of want to see more of that improvement there, but he's good on the defensive end. He's a pretty good athlete. He's got that work ethic. He has pretty high basketball IQ, so you would want him in a deal too because he's pretty valuable. Could develop him. I'm just not sure how he would be in that deal because, they already have Drew Holiday as your shooting guard, Zion as your power forward, and Tatum as your small forward. So I don't know what kind of rotation they would run, but I think that if you're the New Orleans Pelicans, you want Jaylen Brown in this deal if you can because it's Jaylen Brown. He's a valuable asset. You also need to get some pick or some cap back because Anthony Davis, I think he makes around like $20 million. So you kind of want that cap back. And I think that Al Horford is the perfect player that the Pelicans would want in a veteran. They need that vet on their team to kind of mentor the young guys, kind of lead them through if they were to pair Jaylen, Zion, and Tatum up. I think that Al Horford would be perfect if he opts into his player option this season because, if he opts into his player option, and he'd have 1 year left. He could be, a guy that could even out the cap as well. Plus, he's very valuable. He's a great playmaker for a center. He provides spacing for Zion. He's a vet. He's great defensively, and he could kind of mentor him. And I think that that's something that Zion would very much need if he were to go to the New Orleans Pelicans and if they were to make this trade. So I think that Al Horford is the perfect center you want next to Zion Williamson. And then he's a free agent at the end of the season anyway, so then maybe you could get that cap off and try to attract another free agent or sign him back if he does good. So there you go. You got Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Al Horford. But is there anything else that the Celtics have to offer? Well, they do have 3 first-round picks this year. So, that's pretty valuable. I think that the Pelicans would want to get some picks there because this draft is okay. There is some gems in this draft, and I think that the Pelicans would want probably 2 first-rounders to get some gems. Obviously, they would probably want to draft some depth, like a point guard or a center with those picks. And there's definitely lots of talent available with those picks that they would be acquiring. So if I'm the Pelicans, I want 2 first-round picks. I want Al Horford, I want Jayson Tatum, and I want Jaylen Brown. Now, for the Celtics end, is that too much? That is a lot to offer, but you have to remember what you're getting back. You're getting Anthony Davis. Yes, there has been some injury concerns, but he's still Anthony Davis. He was third in MVP voting a couple years ago. He's still super young. He's super talented. He's the best big man we have in the NBA today, in my opinion, and I think it's pretty consensus. I think that that's what you want. It depends on if you consider Giannis a big man or not. So, yeah, he's the best big man that we have in the NBA, and you have to give up a lot for him. But at the end of the day, is it worth it? Because there's been some arguments that the Celtics team wouldn't be that good if they gave up their 3 main players in Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, and Jayson Tatum. And are they true? They are correct to an extent, but here's the thing. I think that with the Boston Celtics, here would be your lineup. So, for the point guard position, obviously Kyrie Irving is gone in this scenario, but let's just say Terry Rozier signs back because, he wants to be a starting point guard for a team. Maybe the Celtics could give him another chance, even though it's most likely he's not going to re-sign because of some recent things he said in an interview. Or maybe Isaiah Thomas could come back. That's a possibility, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Isaiah Thomas. He does want to go back to the Celtics, so I could see that taking place. Shooting guard, you would have Marcus Smart, obviously all defensive team, great defensive player. That would be good to have for Anthony Davis because, you would build a good defensive foundation. You would also have Gordon Hayward, which is a big wild card in this trade because if you have Gordon Hayward on your team, we don't know how he's really going to play next season because, he was really good with the Jazz, came back to the Celtics, got injured for a full season, came back, and just wasn't the same player. We've seen glimpses of him being great, but overall consistency just isn't there. But if he can get back to at least a close enough level to what he was, then that's a win-win. Just give him time to develop. I think that giving him a bigger role and, giving him a bigger role would really help him, a bigger leadership role, just a better role in general on the court. I think that that's what he needs. Brad Stevens says that he's been working very well in the offseason, and I think that he has the work ethic to get close back. I don't think he'll ever get back to what he was, but I think he'll get close if he just puts in the work. And you also got, obviously, Anthony Davis at that power forward position or center position, depending on where they want to play him. And then after that, they do have Aaron Baines, who they might re-sign. They do have Robert Williams, who they could start. I don't know how that would work. There's also free agency to consider. Marcus Morris is probably not signing back. So there's all that. You have a pretty decent lineup. Not great. Obviously, it's not as good as your team last year because you're giving up a lot. But I think that if you just get the right pieces together, maybe not talent-wise they're good enough, but if you build a good system around them and you balance each other and everyone knows their role, then they could overperform what the Celtics did this season. Because that was their main problem. No one really knew their role. There was too much talent. Maybe if you balance it out, then maybe the team is better and Anthony Davis could take the reins of this Boston Celtics team. Now, there's been some arguments that if AD gets traded to the Boston Celtics, then he will either not resign, or if he does resign, then he'll waste his career in Boston because there won't be enough help for him. Now, that is a valid argument to an extent. Now, the Pelicans have not been doing a great job building around Anthony Davis. They've tried. They went out and got DeMarcus Cousins. They went to the second round. That didn't really work. And then they also got Julius Randle, which did work, but their team still didn't do good. They got Drew Holiday. They signed him up for way, way too much. And they've just spent lots of cap on just guys that they just don't need to sign, like Solomon Hill, Etuan Moore. Those guys are pretty overpaid. But this situation is different because, yes, he is going to a weaker team. It's the management. The Pelicans management is different than the Boston Celtics management. The Boston Celtics management is one of the best run teams in the NBA because they have Danny Ainge, who is an amazing GM, and then they have Brad Stevens, who is an awesome head coach. So, you would need to trust this franchise that they could build talent around you. And plus they would most likely have cap in the scenario where they trade Horford and they don't re-sign Kyrie. They would have cap. Maybe they could attract some free agents because Boston's a pretty good sports city. Anthony Davis would attract some free agents if he were to re-sign. Obviously, this is all hypothetical, but still I think it's fun to think about. But also, yeah, you got Danny Ainge as your GM who will help you more than the Pelicans front office will ever do. And you also got Brad Stevens, who is a really good head coach who could work with the talent. He's a good players coach. He's good with his minutes. He's just a really good coach in general. He's been a little bit overrated because lots of people thought that, Brad Stevens is just going to work magic with this team. But it didn't really work out like that. But I think that this team around Anthony Davis and the support in the management around Anthony Davis, if he went to the Boston Celtics, would just be amazing. So what do you think of this Anthony Davis hypothetical trade? Is it too much? Is it too less? Let me know down in the comment section below. Also, like the video if you want to see more Anthony Davis trade rumors and just more offseason rumors in general. That's all for me now. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and goodbye.